Hello. To me, it feels perfect outside. It feels really good right now. And the air's not so bad. We've had like bad air quality the past 2 days, I think, or so. And I've been out, and I think I've talked about this. My lungs are naturally sensitive. And so it's been, I think, giving me some issues. I think that's why my throat the way it is, or my voice is the way that it is. Yeah. Anywho. Oh gosh, it feels so good outside. How has your morning been? Or evening, or day, whatever it may be for you. I have had a relatively quiet morning, other than, make sure I'm thinking right, other than a couple of things. I have actually not been on my phone. Even when I showered, I didn't listen to any worship music. I've felt to not. I don't know why. I guess I'm just been talking to God. I want to make sure I hear Him. And then, what else? There was something else I was going to say. Oh, I've been going back and reading the 40 Days of Decrease so that I could highlight. And so I have been trying to honor the fast as well, if I feel led to. But today's was light, I think. And so it was to read Hebrews 11 by candlelight. That's actually hard to do. I did do it in the darkness, I guess, anyways. So that was interesting. And read it aloud. Read it aloud in the dark by candlelight. And so I took my candles. Anywho, let me pray. God, I thank you so much for your love. I thank you for all the things you have done, will do, and are doing. I ask that you please help us to get whatever it is that we're supposed to get from this moment, from this reading. Please provide insight. Just thank you so much for all of your goodness and mercy. Amen. All right. So I'm going to read from spring until autumn, I believe. If I looked correctly, yeah, the start of autumn, because otherwise, the next is like 30 pages. So it's a lot. So I'm going to do this. It's about 20 pages. Pardon me. As I said, I've been out and the air quality was poor. I guess I should have wore a mask, but all right. Spring. A day before this March 19th letter had arrived from Wheaton, my mother had written in her diary, I've been praying earnestly that the Lord will guide Jim as to what he is to do for the summer. Wycliffe or British Guiana. The British Guiana option, the South American country now known simply as Guyana, situated along the northern coast, had entered the equation while he was home to attend my Uncle Bert's wedding. In his letter of February 1st, he had said, my father is seriously considering a trip to British Guiana, where some local brethren from here are establishing a lumbering business. There are about 30 small English-speaking assemblies and a British missionary who needs a furlough but has no teacher to take his place. Dad may fit in, as he is both millwright and teacher. If he goes this summer, he wants me to go with him, and if God so allows it, would drop Wycliffe plans in a minute. We've had some happy times together, and I cannot estimate what enrichment a few months working with him might do for me, practically and spiritually. The possibility remained viable throughout the spring. I sometimes think that 3 months of real practical experiences would be better for me just now than 3 more in the books. As you are praying for me, do think of this, Bets, as I feel much constrained to go. So on March 22nd, she was praying for my dad, saying, "Oh, how I long to see him. If I could just talk with him for 10 minutes. Have not had a letter since March 5th. Then on March 23rd, his letter arrived, and it struck her as though a whole other person had written it. Here's a little of what it said. The record will inform you of the high old time we had on Reverse Day this year. Arlene Swanson, one-time Mall of the great Dubbins Norbeck, invited me as an evening guest. Charming time, I must say. I dated her for a wrestling banquet the first year here, mostly for her appearance, I think. He went on to add other names of guys she knew, including her brother Dave, listed alongside the girls to ask them out on Reverse Day, a Wheaton tradition from a simpler time when gender roles were reversed for a single day. So this says crazy antics at senior sneak. And this one says Reverse Day. The whole outfit looked like a gang of fugitives from New England attics. Lace, bustles, hoop skirts, sunbonnets, top hats, spats, cases, pipes, complete with 3-week beards. Wow. Yes, I had 3 weeks growth. It was red, believe it or not, and I still maintain a mustache, but public opinion is getting unbearable. Seniors had a party following with pie throwing and water dunking in the baptistery of Lower Chapel. The wildest, most raucous, absurd set of lovable hoodlums I had ever known. And rather than signing off with his more customary lovingly or tenderly, he closed with the relatively generic, impersonal, sincerely. Scenes like the ones he described in this letter were the beginning of what my father dubbed his Renaissance, a time at the end of his senior year when he threw off all the shackles he placed upon himself in order to prove to the class that he was freed from legalism. He'd seen how Paul in his New Testament letters had taught of our need to be conformed to Christ and not to rules. As a result, my dad set out to create a disruption of my previously pious code of don'ts that used to motivate much of my action. He'd concluded that some of the rigorous standards he held over the course of 3 college years had essentially turned into a legal bondage that was developing into critical prayers and a general attitude of spiritual superiority. Missionary candidacy became my standard for spirituality, and my fellowship was limited to those of that sphere. He felt as if his good, consecrated attitudes and priggish little laws had alienated him from many of the students, and he therefore decided to start acting a little more normal. Normal to his natural self, and normal to those in the rest of the student body who perhaps thought he was just a tad too spiritual. Before the spring was out, his Renaissance would contribute to a senior sneak unlike any other in Wheaton's history. The weekend when seniors sneak away for a time of fun without letting the juniors know. The antics were crazy and different enough that even he would later admit, my pendulum swung too far. But my mother, upon hearing the first waves of these shenanigans, shared with such glee in letters from both my dad and her brother Dave, became very upset, confounded at him, as well as worried for him. March 23rd. The foolishness in clowning left me cold. Jim actually led FMF dressed up in an outrageous 49er outfit. I had been faced with an eternity today, reading Revelations 15 and 16, AC things as they are, and could not but weep my heart out at the disappointment all this has been. His letter was strangely empty. Oh, has he kept his promise to be honest? Have I been a drain on him? The next day brought no relief. In fact, she sat down and wrote a letter not only to him, a brief, curt one apparently, but also to their friend Bill Cathers, asking him to pray, and if he deems wise, to exhort the brother along the line of Titus 2:6. Not Jay, not Jim, but the brother. This notable change in tone reveals how hard she'd taken the news of my dad's Renaissance, feeling a greater distance from him spiritually than the 1,500 miles that separated them physically. Have no idea how he will receive it, she said, or if he will understand at all. She waited to see. Less than a week later, March 28th, she presumed that Bill and Jim probably received my letters today. It obviously had its effect. My dad's lengthy 7-page return letter was dated, not surprisingly, the same day. March 28th. I think it very difficult to explain why I wrote as I did last week. But remember, the fact that I changed my tone does not indicate another Jim, who signs his name Jim, prefixed by sincerely rather than by tenderly or something other. The Jim is the same, and if you are to love him, you must love him whether he be sincere, tender, or sarcastic. I live with him all the time and can assure you, as I've tried to maintain from the beginning, but am only now getting convincing, you do not know all of him yet, and he has far more deplorable aspects than signing sincerely. What I wrote was from my heart. I was sincere. You must accept me that way or leave me alone. I cannot give you anything but what I am, and if now you see for the first time what I really am, you choose to defer. You do only as I feared you might do when you found out, and will incidentally fulfill prophecies I voiced to you from the beginning. Whoo! Ah! Continuing on. He broached a theme that would reappear in several letters throughout the year, a struggle within his own heart, not knowing if he was even capable of love. To explain psychologically what I was thinking when I wrote, which so changed my tone, is impossible. I can only attempt an apology. I don't remember whether I ever said this to you or not, but I have been very conscious of it since breaking up with Wilma, a childhood sweetheart. The very fact that I began going with her at 14 and wouldn't look at another girl for 4 years warned me that my affections go out very easily and are jealously tenacious. Recognizing this fact, that I would lose my heart at every turn if I didn't discipline myself carefully, I withdrew from dating and even close association with girls whom I knew attracted me or to whom I was somehow attractive. Love, like his own heart, remained mysterious to him. In later letters, he would mention how he loved too easily and not deeply enough, noticing how his love tended to fluctuate through cycles of warmth and cold, how he was impetuous in nature, how he could swing to extremes which make me either too nice or too brutal. If my mother felt him untrue and unsteady, it's because he felt untrue and unsteady himself. I'm surprised at how bold, brash, and uninhibited he could be, especially after knowing the constancy of my mother's love. Yet, he wanted to be real with her, admitting his love was capable of waning and waxing. I love him for it, because I also am often too bold with my words, but the Holy Spirit tempers everything. He then ended with a dismissive flourish. If you don't like the tone of this letter, send it back, and I'll re-edit it another time. Just know, I feel as if this little rift is tremendously inconsequential, and I can sincerely sign my letters. Lovingly, Jim. Should all be revoked? My mother was already wondering, even before this letter arrived, and as her school term was wrapping up. Just now, there is a great longing to be home. Still much exercise about the matter spoken of Tuesday. Yet gathering herself in the word and in prayer, she summarized the following thoughts in her journal, spiritually bracing herself for whatever was coming next. March 30th. Lord, this night I do earnestly ask of thee. 1. Grace to perform without hesitation thy whole will. 2. Discernment, that I may know a self-imposed cross when I am faced therewith. 3. Restful and unquestioning love when thou art silent and the way is not clear. 4. The will to do away immediately and thoroughly with all that is only fleshly entanglement, weak indecision, or earth-born cloud. 5. Holy Ghost wisdom to know the difference. Therefore, when his letter came, she was eager to hear his heart, but was also secure in wanting God's will alone. She thought he was being ridiculously obtuse, the way he was excusing his behavior and his lack of reticence. But she rested in the clear truth of Scripture, that God would never leave her and would always be her refuge. April 1st. I have thought of several ways of replying to Jim's letter. I could quite successfully answer some of his arguments and include some choice retorts. But, oh, how petty and foolish. What wonderful rest there is, I remind myself, that this whole business is not mine to hold or secure, but his all. April 2nd. I have asked a definite thing of the Lord, that he will either give perfect peace regarding Jay, or make it unmistakably clear that I am to forsake the whole affair. And as I leave this in his hands, I ask for power to center all my thoughts on Christ, uninstructed by a concern which is not mine at all. What's interesting, as I hold his letters here in my hand, not just the one of March 28th, but several others that follow, April 18th, April 25th, are little comments my mother scribbled in the margin as she read. For example, where he mentions one or two girls he dated in the past, as well as one or two others in his current class who are wanting him to go to spring functions. She wrote things like, "Who are these? Did you accept? Why all this? Should I be interested or jealous?" Or where he says, "My recently acquired mustache brought a well-signed petition to have it removed from several attentive girls." She remarked, "You were dully flattered by this?" Oh, I love it. Notice my mother's penciled commentary in the margins of my father's letter. Here are a few others with her commentary in brackets. So, okay, so this is Jim's writing. On rereading, I see that I have made myself beautifully obscure. The mother's note. No, only too clear. Him. I can't seem to put on paper in a few or many words what I really want to say. Incidentally, that was why I said I wish you were near in my last, for I sense that the constancy of my warmth of affection is determined by proximity. Her. So that's all we have? This tendency to love quickly, combined with a natural desire for flattery and a yin for intimacy with anyone and all, will doubtless make me a problem husband. Her. Thought you weren't getting married. Last week it made me a difficult boyfriend. Her. Who calls you that? I love it. Woo! Okay. Him. I cannot help but tell you, and for the last time I hope, my love is not constant. The brute is too much with me. Our loves as humans must be nourished by response. Quoted from your letter on February 13th. Her. Taken out of context, not referring to our particular love. Him. Are not your letters something like mine, at times vivid with a subtle passion, at other times not committal to the point of dullness? Her. This only because I turn off my heart at such times. Him. Please, Betty, how am I to take this? One letter reads with the tone of marked surprise, "Why, Jim, you write as if you assumed there was something between us, a shadow of a claim we have on one another." Jim is so simple, he bites hard and responds in appreciation of your ease and naivete. And the next letter returns with poet talk of deep-seated, inevitable, powerful heart passion, a passion of love which I interpret because of its dynamic nature to have a very real claim upon me. Does this go with a sentence written in one of your October letters? Never have I felt any claim of any sort whatever on you. No claims? Then why all this stir? What's the difference if you have no claims? Her. No, we have no claim. If it is selfless, love has no rights. Had I a claim, I should have said, all or nothing at all. Him. I want you to take me up on anything I have written, condemn, criticize, question until you're satisfied. Before God, my heart is pure. Her. That to me is all that matters. And I will tell you all I can if it will help. And I will tell you all if I can help. Somehow I sense that your brevity has been far more loquacious than my ramblings. I don't wish to paint my father in too unfavorable a light for things we observe here in his tone and behavior. He was young, like all of us were young. He was flawed, like all of us are flawed. Nor was my mother innocent of displaying pride and immaturity in some of her reactions. My dad was also aware enough to realize he didn't like a lot of what he was seeing in himself during this time. One night, for instance, while at the campus snack bar, he is writing, April 6th, decided to follow Peg Rogers and Arlene Swanson home, and decided to have a party at one of the girls' dormitories. We all went over for pop, ice cream, potato chips, stories, folk dancing, and cutting up generally. Wish my heart were more condemned. I am worse than a social animal. I am a social fiend. I love to be with a gang. Not long afterward, April 23rd. Dorm party with Florence Kelsey tonight. Got to cutting up again. Oh, when will I ever mature? How I despise myself when I get home here in quiet and think of the noise I've made. It led him to a prayerful place. Fellowship with the gang is enticing fun, but I feel carried away tonight with soul enticement. Nothing bad, just nothing good. Son of God, purger of the inner parts, discerner of my sittings down, my risings, wilt thou hallow this soul of mine? The choice is mine, you say. Ah, yes, the choice is mine. Reflecting on one of these nights, in fact, he composed the following poem. God of the strangest ways, who silent watches thy son, while away rollicking days, playing till day is done. A son who, sobered at silence, loves the sound of a joke, and drowning the surging quiet, seeks consolation in noise. How can thy love remain fervent, Father of this careless child? How be still in thine ardor, a stillness which hankers me wild? Son of sound-ridden mind, question no more of how. Silent or saucy, crowded or lone, my love rests on thee now. Meanwhile, in Canada, my mother was seeking rest in the Lord as well, dealing with all this unexpected drama as she prepared for summer mission work. April 22nd. Last night, after receiving the first letter in 3 weeks from Jim, my soul was nearly torn apart. Oh, I cannot write of all it meant, but my heart was desperately wrung. My soul cried out, why? How can it be? Then I remembered. I had prayed, no matter how. It is only for my Lord to choose my cross. Can he not give grace and enable me to go in peace? I have asked to be broken, to be dealt with in any way, only that I might be like Jesus, fit to be his witness. Though he slay me, yet will I trust him. And the Lord himself stood by me. He spoke peace. He held me in his everlasting arms and loved me with everlasting love. He reminded me of the weight of glory ahead and gently rebuked me for looking at myself and my own selfish interests. Apparently, the sense of surrendered peace was evident in the next letter she wrote. Perhaps her words were still pointed enough to sting him a little, but they must have also hinted at a softening. His response didn't carry now the same fiery, defensive flavor that had dominated his most recent letters of the spring. May 3rd. All right, put up the buckler and I'll lay down the sword. Yours of this morning, with what I've been getting from above the last week, has sufficiently beaten my spears into pruning hooks and left me with a plow handle cuddled in my fist rather than a sword held. Her letter must also have included a refusal to send him any more of her poems, since he'd been hard on the last one. Never did I dream the only man I'd ever sent this poem to, she wrote in one of those personal sidebars, would tear it to pieces, laugh, mock. But somehow, I love this reaction, thrive on it. He playfully answered, if you refuse to send me poems, I'll get mad again, and then you'll be sorry. The one of March 23rd lies quite intact in my drawer, a thing of beauty and joy forever, in spite of itself. I haven't got time to write anything as I hope to finish this seminar term paper on Thucydides tonight. More with you later, young lady. He wasn't yet in full agreement with everything she might have been challenging him about, nor with all she interpreted from what he'd been saying. But even in disagreeing, he now said it, smiling so. He was quite game to restore peace between them. So as she left PBI on Monday, May 9th, traveling 125 miles north of the tiny community of Patience, Alberta, at least she was warmed to some degree by this thaw in relations. Patience, a rustic village near Jasper National Park, home of the Athabasca Glacier, was the site of her summer work with the Canadian Sunday School Mission, CSSM. Her job, as I mentioned, primarily involved going out, visiting families, and inviting their children to Sunday school. She lived in a drafty, cheaply built trailer on a local farm, traveling many miles by bicycle, each day both to find meeting locations as well as entice people to come. It is a new and strange experience for me, she wrote, and I feel keenly my tremendous need of a mighty fortress. First day, May 10th. I woke at 4:30 with the farm fowl, made a small breakfast, and cleaned up my little home. In the hot stillness of the afternoon, felt desolate, helpless, lonely, discouraged. Was helped by Deuteronomy 1, especially verses, the ink's gone out, I think it says 8. 8, 17, 29, 30, and this from Hudson Taylor. It is not what we set ourselves to do that really tells in blessing, so much as what He is doing through us when we least expect it. If only we are in abiding fellowship with Him. Walked with children in the woods. And so she worked and witnessed. Here are a few more of her struggles through that spring. May 12th, visited 2 homes this PM, one Christian, not sure of the other. Both consented to send children to SS. Wept as I rode along the road on my bike. May 13th, letters from Phil, home, and Jim last night. I do not think I have ever been so overwhelmed with my own helplessness as today. May 16th, rode my bike 15.5 miles today up to Conjuring Lake. Had to see 3 men about using the school for SS on Saturday afternoons, since that is a more convenient time. Finally got permission. The wind was terrific, coming from northwest, so I could scarcely pedal. Had to walk part of the way. Came home to my dark little house, cold and very tired. No reward save that of knowing that I do thy will. The family she saw were mostly very poor and extremely the families she saw were mostly very poor and extremely uneducated, having had no Christian influence. The men gambled and drank, the women gossiped and used foul language, tending to the farms without many of the men taking their responsibility seriously. There were bright spots, like the Brinks family, who would often invite her to their home for Sunday dinner, but most of her days were purely hard work, trying to serve people who couldn't have cared less for the gospel. Thankfully, letters arrived from home and elsewhere with comforting regularity. The bundle she received on Saturday, May 21st, came with exciting but homesick news. Letters from Mother, Mrs. Elliot. The Elliots are going to Jim's graduation. Mother is hoping to go, too. My Uncle Dave was graduating as well. So perhaps they will have a chance to meet. I do hope so. Her next letter from my dad was quite newsy as well. Says Bill Cathers, one of my dad's closest friends, coming to talk about the letter my mother had sent, asking him to exhort the brother. Bob Weber, another good friend and roommate, joined them. May 26th. You must be experiencing some close companionship with the Savior, being so very much alone these days. I had read the letter you sent to the family, which your mother typed and sent around. Dave gave it to me last week, and so I was prepared for the note coming from Patience. I confess fears for you at times, but then I know I'm not supposed to act like an old hen, so I managed to find rest in commending you to His keeping, in the very real sense of that word. It's Saturday night now. Just as I got to this spot in the letter, I heard what I thought sounded like my roommate coming down the street. He always wheezes on the harp when walking, as do I and Billy occasionally too. Well, it turned out to be Bill. He said he felt constrained of the Spirit to come here and talk to me. You guessed it. It was about your letter. He read your letter to me, and we exercised our hearts generally about the Renaissance. Others have come to me with such reports and have been tremendously helped by their frank tolerance and love. I've had to make several apologies about my overdoing this freedom on the sneak, and kids have been most forgiving. I cannot tell you what this all means, but it is no small cause for praise on my part to our God, who so works in the strangest circumstances to accomplish His will. Your prayers have done more than you now imagine. Continue for me these next 2 weeks. He who hears in secret will reward thee openly, my sister. That must have felt good to hear. The Renaissance was officially over. I got my draft classification today, 1A. They give you 10 days to appeal, so I wrote asking for consideration. They try to sift as many COs, conscientious objectors, through as they can, because it's quite an ordeal to go through all the investigation. I think I told you that Mother and Dad and Jan, his little sister, are coming for graduation. Bert and Colleen got away about 2 weeks ago to Peru, and Mom and Dad went to California to see them off. Mother's on crutches, but is slowly losing weight and quitting work, so I feel she is on the road to recovery. You would have enjoyed the sneak communion. We had a huge glass flagon and an oversized loaf of bread. After a few opening remarks, we began to pray and sing familiar hymns. Ed McCully, one of the 5 men later killed by the Aucas, broke the bread and gave thanks for the cup. It took a long time for the single cup and plate to get around, so we sang as it was passed. Hardly a soul that wasn't moved to worship. Oh, why cannot the Spirit lead us more often thus? How long shall we trust in man and programming to accomplish his work in men's souls? Lord, let me learn quickly. Love, Jim. I feel sure this letter brought a smile to her face, especially because it came at a time when she was expecting another dose of welcome relief, as she'd mentioned in her diary, May 27th. It will surely be nice when Faye comes, supposedly on Monday. Faye Fredrickson was a friend from PBI whom she'd anticipated coming to join her. She'd rolled up here in a huge truck in which she had begged a ride, my mother wrote on May 30th. It is surely good to have someone to talk with and share the wonderful things God has been doing for me. Oh, how I pray that this trailer will be a foretaste of heaven and unity with Christ. Actually, she knew any unity in Christ would take a lot of prayer to make happen. As she'd written earlier to her mother, she expected this pairing with Faye to be a good test and trial of her faith and grace. Well, we leave it in the Lord's hands. Faye is a lot like me in many ways, primarily meaning strong-minded, and I can see that it would take all the grace the Lord would supply to keep us knit together in love. And how, by the next day, things were already going south. May 31st. This AM, Faye burst into a tirade, saying no one had ever treated her this way before, and she didn't intend to allow me to. If you can't be nice to me, Betty, well, that's just all. Oh, my heart was broken. I was stunned. Lord, take over completely. 2 days later, June 2nd. Command from Faye this AM. Betty, don't talk to me like that. I honestly have no idea when she will take what I say as an affront. Oh, Lord, I beseech thee to make me loving and lovable. Next day, June 3rd. This afternoon we rode along. Faye began questioning whether or not the heathen were lost. I gave her a few scriptures to show that they were, and said I thought that such questions were dangerous. Oh, fiddle, she said. Betty Howard, you act like I didn't have a brain in my head. With this, she went into a tirade about my attitude. We talked and prayed. Oh, God, give me love and grace to meet this new and very hard thing. Part of God's answer to her prayer for love came by the way of the mail. Letter from Jay tonight in answer to mine of this past Tuesday. Jay's letter such a help in light of what I have been experiencing regarding Faye. He spoke of loving not to be a help or do anything. More broadly, it said, June 9th. One of my Renaissance experiences was to get among kids who were on a different spiritual level than my own and to enjoy fellowship. I found a very subtle snare in doing so. I sought their fellowship in order that I might minister to them, be a help, to these weaker ones. What a rebuke came when I sensed my real motive, that I might minister. Love hacks right at this, for love refuses to parade itself. I learned to recognize no spiritual planes, but simply to love purely in every group. Trying to be a help even has a smell of good works in it, for it is not pure. Our motive is only to be, do nothing, know nothing, act nothing, just to be a sinful bit of flesh born of a Father's love. Then you see, beloved, there can be no defeat. Where knowledge tends to swell me up, or the despair of the flesh would make me shrivel up, the love of Christ holds me together. Any little occasion then has meaning, if only I can love while it passes. Nothing, even this 3-day wait till graduation, is lost. Oh yes, graduation. His next letter included some apt descriptions from this event, largely in family terms. June 16th. Good to see your folks again last weekend and get in a little fellowship, particularly with your dad on Sunday afternoon. I feel like your mother is disappointed in me. Not that she said anything or even overtly gave a sign of offense, but I sense she's not too happy that our relationship has not been more clearly defined. She and Dave and Phil and Marge were on Williston porch as a gang of us came in from swimming last Saturday. I was with Lila Tisdale, and I don't know whether I read... Oh. Okay, this is the dad's note. I was with Lila Tisdale, and I don't know whether I read this for my own psychological set or whether it actually occurred, but I felt your mother looked hurt. She and mother had a good talk Sunday too, but I haven't been subtle enough to worm out of mom just what was under fire. Your mother told me a little about Faye and something of what you had written home. May God himself be both strong and song to you, Bets. Be not afraid, and I shall pray. All right. I meant to say I'm going to go to summer. I forgot we started at spring. So tomorrow I will read from summer until autumn. I think. I don't know. This is how much is left. How much did I just read right now? Do. Pardon me. Okay, spring. I'm gonna have to split it up again. So I'll read till autumn. Ugh, don't want this to last long. Anyway, sorry, don't mind me. I just would like to get it done in 2 weeks. I don't know if that's what God said. Oh, excuse me. Okay, God, thank you for today. Thank you for your love. And just thank you so much for all the things you have done, will do, and are doing. Thank you for loving us through our growth periods. Amen. Okay, thank you so much for your time and attention. I appreciate it. Have a good day, night, evening, morning, whatever it may be. And we will continue tomorrow from summer to autumn is what I'm going to read. All right, I love you. Bye-bye.